to be too light too fast.
Right, because you want enough energy to keep training. And,
so you want to be basically training and walking around at about 9 to 10 pounds, I would say heavy. So I wanted to be about 149 to 151 before I made my cut. And then I'll make a cut within 5 days. So I'll lose those 10 pounds within 5 days to weigh in.
5 days, wow.
Yeah. So it's a
Is
lot
it mostly water?
It's a water manipulation strategy, yeah. So I will water load, and then I'll walk, and I'll sweat in a sweatsuit, plastic suit. And then I'll cut my water down, and then you just kind of, like, your body kind of delays. So if you overload your body with water for several days in a row, it will anticipate that amount of water for the next few days. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, like, if I give my body 2 gallons of water for 3 days straight, on the 4th day, it's going to act and respond like it's getting 2 gallons of water.
Yeah.
Even if I only put in a gallon.
Yeah.
So I was able to sweat like I was getting 2 gallons, but only ingest 1. So then you taper it off. And so it will still sweat like it's getting 2 for the next 2 or 3 days. And you just keep cutting your water, and you keep cutting your water until eventually you make weight. And I cut my carbs because carbs hold water. So
yes.
So yeah, and I'm not training. I'm not burning any muscle. Any kind of activity that I do to make myself sweat is very, very low intensity. And I do it very safely, and I do it, you have to be very careful. I check in. It's not something that you can just kind of do on a whim. You know, it's there's a ton of strategy with it. And my way is not the only way. It's the way that works best for my body and the way that I react to it. So
that's actually something I want to talk about. So what does it look like when you are coming into a competition, like when you're peaking for it while you're cutting weight? What does that look like? Because I've never had to cut weight while I'm peaking for a competition.
Right. So I would say I definitely do like a normal peak where I would increase my volume as far as lifting and my weights and stuff. And I like to more event focus on the last couple weeks of when I'm training. But when you're cutting weight, going into that, it is about 5 to 7 days out. It depends on how heavy you are. Sometimes you can get away with a 5-day cut. Sometimes it needs to be more like 7. And once you start that peak or that cut, I call it cut week, you cut out all your carbs. So I'm strictly protein and fats. And you start the water load that I talked about, and you'll do about an hour of sweating a day. And it needs to be sweating. When you sweat, a lot of people think, oh, we'll just get in a sauna. Well, no, that's not. That's a different type of sweating. So I like to increase my internal temperature through movement. So walking is a lot of what I do. So a ton of walking. I don't know how many miles I walk during a cut week, but it's a lot. It's a lot of walking. And so basically I will just continue my cut until weigh-ins. So any kind of traveling that I have to do is done on very low food and very low water. It's not a pleasant.
Oh, it doesn't sound pleasant.
It's not very pleasant. I would say I feel pretty normal for about the first 3 to 4 days, and the last 2 to 3 days can sometimes be pretty brutal.
When does weigh-ins take place? Is that like just the night before, or is it day of?
You have 24 hours from start date or start time of the competition. So it'll be a 9 a.m. weigh-in. It'll be a 9 a.m. competition start time.
And what does that 24-hour period look like for you? So you go and you weigh in, right? You're at the lowest weight, and then what?
I mean, I thought it would be really fun because you get to eat whatever you want, but I learned the hard way that when you come off of no food and no water, your stomach is very sensitive.
To like those carb, greasy foods, or what?
It's crucial what you pick to eat afterwards.
What do you normally pick? What's your go-tos now that you that you know?
So as crazy as it sounds, Jordan always has me do Gatorade. Okay. But it has to be the scoops of Gatorade, so I can actually control the amount of carbs that I'm doing. So I do 1 scoop of Gatorade, and I will sip on it. You do not chug it. As much as you'll want to chug it, you don't want to do that. So I'll sip on that, and I found that baby crackers or baby cookies. So just I'm gluten-free. I'm 100% gluten-free. I don't eat any gluten ever.
Do you have a gluten intolerance, or is it just a choice?
I do have a little bit of an intolerance, but it's mainly a choice.
Okay.
I found that if I eat gluten, I tend to carry about 3 pounds more weight.
Oh, I
so
see.
it was harder for me to cut weight. So yeah, like baby crackers and anything that's kind of mild and easy on the stomach.
So you're not going in and just like getting some deep, greasy, Chicago pizza. No.
Eventually I will. It's a tradition for me that the night before a competition, I always get a gluten-free pizza.
The night before competition?
Yeah. It's just what I do. So thankfully with Strongman, you do have to eat right, but you're only working for 5 minutes.
And you want a surge of carbs,
yes,
right? Because
it's all high carbs.
It's anaerobic glycolysis.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm trying to refuel my glycogen levels, I think is what it is. Right. Yeah, so trying to restore that, bring them back up, trying to store a lot of energy. Obviously a ton of water, because if you're dehydrated, it's hard for you to compete. So we need to get the water back into the muscles and just trying to feel as normal as possible.
Do you usually feel pretty like 100% normal on competition day? You feel like I'm going to kill this, or are you usually? Because it's probably kind of hard to tell, because you also, like you said, you have this adrenaline surge, from the crowd. So it probably is hard to tell whether you really were 100% or not.
Right. I've had good cuts. I've had bad cuts. My last Arnold, the 2018, so it was basically last year at the Arnold, was my last cut that I did. No, I take that back. I did cut for Alabama's Strongest Man back in August, and that was the first time that I actually never made weight. I could not cut the last, I think it was about 2 pounds. I was struggling really hard to make that weight. And
to shave your head and shave your eyebrows.
It's just,
whatever it takes.
And I just weigh out. Like, if that would have been a world championship, I would have made weight somehow.
Yeah.
But you have to gauge whether or not you're going to push the extremes due to what the reward is.
Right.
So that was the first time I had never made weight, and it was mentally tough. I'm not going to lie and say that I'm not a little scared to cut again after having to go through what I did for that. I had to push a little bit harder. I had to get up really early day of weigh-ins and just crush it for 5 hours of sweating trying to get the weight to drop. So it's not fun. But going back to the Arnold in March, flawless. I think I sweat one time in just by cutting my carbs and manipulating my water, made weight, no problem. I felt great. I refueled amazingly. And I competed. It was the best I had ever competed, was 2018 Arnold Classic. I ended up missing my pro card by 1 placement. Whew. So I placed 5th, and they took the top 4 women, made it to the main stage to compete for a pro card, and all those women ended up being pros. So it was a heartbreak.
Yeah, I bet. It's so close. You put in all that work, and you feel so good too. It was
tough. There was a lot of tears that were shed, and to be 5th and really just needing to be 4th. It's hard not to beat yourself up about that, but
that's an interesting selection. 4? I don't feel like that's a number that's thrown around. Usually it's like first 3 places or the first 5 places. I just feel like 4 is a weird cutoff.
It's weird. Yeah. So how they do it is the top. They take the top 4 and they get to go on the main stage where Brian Shaw and Thor and all these world-renowned strongman competitors compete on the main stage of the Arnold Classic. That's just
that's cool.
It's once in a lifetime opportunity to ever be able to do that. So they take the top 4. You get to go on stage, battle it out for the 1st through 4th places. It's awesome.
That sounds
you get
so
to,
cool.
Yeah, you get to do 2 events, and it's just all or nothing. Everything you got after a day of competing. The next day you wake up, you've got 2 events just to lay it all out there. So, and then they'll dish out pro cards and stuff for the winners, but. So that's kind of how the Arnold plays out. But yeah.
That'd be such a surreal experience. You know what I mean? That'd be so surreal. Yeah, I hope that happens for you. I think it's in the cards for you. I really do.
Yeah. To come from basically placing last for the past 2 years in my season, and then coming and just placing 5th in the world I mean, these competitors are not just from America. They're from, Germany and Russia and Australia. Yeah, I mean, you've got athletes from literally the entire globe.
Yeah.
The best in their country coming. Canada, all sorts of different athletes. And I think that's the coolest part.
Yeah.
Is to be able to be on the same floor with these athletes that are top in their country and just battle it out.
World stage.
Yeah, it's
World War III.
Yeah. There's just not a lot of athletes or people that get to experience that. And honestly, I'm grateful, and I'll be grateful for forever, even if nothing ever happens more in my sport for me. Just being able to do that is an experience that I'll cherish forever. To not only be with those amazing athletes from other countries, but to be the representation for our country. To be America's top. To be there and with my other, because we're still competing against each other, but we're still the U.S. team.
Right.
We get jackets and it says Team USA on it.
It's pride with that.
Yeah, just to be a representation of the strongest women in the country.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's special, and it's something that I was lucky to be able to do for 3 years. I know.
Back to back like that, too. That's cool.
It'll always hold a special place in my heart. And I'm not necessarily done with the sport, but it's a taxing sport.
Oh, for sure.
That's 3 times that I have to manipulate my weight. I want to be smart about it. I want to be able to compete for longer periods of time. So by taking a season off and just focusing on my strength and my growth as an athlete, I feel like I'm going to be able to come back stronger.
Yeah.
So
is that what you're doing right now?
Yeah, I just had a little bit of a break, a little bit of a mental break, coming off a really, really, really intense first season as a lightweight. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Mentally draining, physically draining. You get kind of in this fog to really know, what are your weaknesses? What do I need to work on? You get so wrapped up in so many factors, and sometimes just stepping back and even switching sports. It's off season for me, and in about 8 weeks, I'm going to compete in a powerlifting meet.
So you're taking the whole year off then?
Yeah. So now, basically, they've already qualified for Worlds this year. Okay. So the Arnold Classic will be in March again in 2019, and that'll be kind of the end of the season that I took off.
I see.
So I'll be able to kick back up, back in the summer, in the spring, find a local comp, qualify, and hopefully hit nationals again next year and kind of cruise through there.
So you're shooting for Worlds 2020 then?
Yeah, it'd be 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, so. I think you're making the smart decision because, man, you got into the sport and just poof, there you are at Worlds, and you're like,
Right, yeah,
and
you're
then
kind of in awe.
And then you're like, it was super fun, and now you have all these expectations of, well, I did it once, I need to be able to do this again, and then again, in a different weight class, and now it's just all this pressure is on you.
It does.
It's good to take a step back and just take some time for your body to recover and your mind to recover, and hit it again from a good place, which, that's going to be for longevity's sake, it's going to help out too.
Right, and I think a little bit of the expectations of me, people who follow my story and my journey, they just automatically, it got to the point where they just, of course she's going to make Worlds.
Right, and you're not the underdog anymore.
Yeah, my hard work and my journey and my training and just every day, all this work and time that I invest in it, it all seems kind of degraded because people just assume, of course she's going to make it to Worlds. Right. She's done it 3 years already. Well, that's not really the case.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee. Perfect example, my very last strongman competition, Alabama's Strongest Man this year.
Yep.
I didn't make weight. I didn't place because I was in with the heavyweights.
Right.
I don't expect anything. Every competition, every day training is a new day, a new opportunity. I don't have any expectations for myself besides putting forth 100% of my effort every day. For every comp, and whatever happens, happens. I can only control what Nikita does. Mm-hmm. I can't control what the other females that I'm competing against do, or how they train, or how they prepare. I can only control what I do.
And you can't control other people's expectations of you.
Yeah, so, you know, it does wear on you. I got a pretty thick following and